Face to Face is coming to you today from the House of Parliament. We are having a conversation with a member of Parliament who has also once served in the executive. He's about one of the very few people who would reject an offer from the executive to join and work with them, being a member of the legislature. Many people see the legislature as a pedestal to get into the executive. This gentleman I'm about to speak to has said no flatly to that offer. I'll ask him why. My name is Umaru Sandamadu, and you're welcome to Face to Face. My guest is a member of Parliament for Obuasi West constituency in the Ashanti region. He has been in active politics for a long time now. I remember he having been a spokesperson in the Kufuor government on economy matters. He's been a member of Parliament, proceeded to be appointed Deputy Minister of Finance in the Akufo-Addo government, the first term, between 2017 to 2021. And then, after that new government, when the president was reconstituting his government, he did not name this particular person into his government. But in what appears to be the 11th hour reshuffle of his government, the president offered him another job. And he said, no, thank you. The Honorable Kwaku Kwarteng has been in the news because 2 days ago, he wrote an op-ed, in which op-ed he said our economy was not looking good, not because of NDC, not because of MPP, but because of both, or because of the politicization of our economy. Kwaku Kwarteng is now looking more nationalistic than political. He's my guest. You're welcome to Face to Face.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you.
How is life treating you?
Life, it's fine.
You want to stop politics. Politics is fun. Oh? That's what everybody likes politics. You alone, you've decided that enough is enough. You won't do politics again. You want to be more national, patriotic, nationalistic. What's happening?
Well, I take that as a compliment, but I think I also have to say that being nationalistic and speaking for the future of the country is also politics. And that's how I think politics ought to be. What oftentimes we call politics, it is what politics ought to be not.
I see. So we are doing the wrong type of politics.
I think for a long time in this country, but also in other places, we do the wrong kind of politics. The politics that says, no matter what happens, so long as it is by your opposing political party or opposing ruling party, you should oppose it and criticize it. And if it is your own government, you must always praise it. And we have never paused to ask where that kind of politics is leading us. The evidence now, when we see where Ghana is going, not necessarily because of what this government has done or did not do, but because of historically the wrong path we've been walking in respect of managing our economy. That is what has brought us here. I think we've come to a point where we all have to ask ourselves, do we want a country or we want politics?
When did you have this, your journey to Damascus moment? When did you decide to repent from being partisan politics to national politics?
There has never been a Damascus moment. Look, I've always thought like this. And many people within party who know me will tell you that this is what I've always thought. This is how I've always thought. But you see, as I get older, and especially spending time in the ministry, and also coming here as a chairman for the finance...
When you say ministry, you mean finance ministry or God's ministry? Which one?
Oh, spending time in the Ministry of Finance.
Okay, all right.
And then being the chairman for the finance committee, you come face to face more with the realities of our country's economy.
You have a clearer picture.
A clearer picture. And it also gives you a better understanding of where our economy is going. When you have that much information, you begin to lose your appetite for partisanship because you understand the problem. And when sometimes people react, say negatively to suggestions about we having to fix our country, and they say you would give the impression that we have not managed the economy well, I'm thinking, will all that matter if in the end the country goes down? Would all that matter? So it is more out of love for my political party that I want this country to be managed more well, our democracy to be stable, so that my beloved MPP can continue operating and doing for this country what we are capable of doing.
Okay. I'll come back so we do the politics still, because whether or not you like it, you are a member of parliament on a political party's ticket.
Yes.
A government is formed by a political party. So I'm not sure you are saying you are no more MPP or you are no more politician. You are simply looking at it from other sides. We'll get to that. Let's reverse a bit. What is wrong with our economy? You have had the privilege of working at the Ministry of Economy under Kufuor's government. When the NDC was in power, you were the opposition spokesperson on economy. You and Akoto, the late MP for Ultafo, is his name, Anthony Akoto. You were doing all that, conversation on the economy. You may have been given privileged information from the government, all of that. Then you came to become Deputy Finance Minister. You have seen our economy for what? Better part of 2 decades. What is the problem with our economy?
The problem with our economy is the behavior of state managers, and it is nothing to do with this particular NPP administration. It's cultural, and it dates back to independence. This is what in Ghana we have been calling economic management. It is so with some African countries as well. But let's focus on Ghana for now. We always overspend our means, and this from independence. So the way we finance that over expenditure is to borrow. So you borrow to pay the debts arising out of previous over expenditures, but also to finance the current year's over expenditure. So each year you must borrow more in order that you can finance the accumulated debt, but also so you can finance the current year's over expenditures. And because we have been able to borrow, we have never paused to ask whether it was all going to end well. In recent times, it is becoming clear that that option may soon not be available to us because, first, on the domestic money market, that is the place we go to borrow money, there are a lot of Ghanaians now who would not buy government bonds because they bought government bonds recently, they got haircuts, and they are uncomfortable buying government bonds. What it means is that it's going to take a while before confidence in buying government securities will be restored. That is for Ghanaians. For non-Ghanaians, we are in discussion with them. I think we've almost concluded that discussion to give them haircut. That is to say, the money that we borrowed from you and promised you we will repay with interest, we can't repay. So let's reach an agreement that some of the money will have to be slashed off, which is what we call haircut. Again, it's going to take time before externally to confidence is developed. The question we ought to be asking is, whilst we are not now allowed to borrow, and we have become so used to overspending our means and financing that with borrowing, how do we proceed from here? Now, these are questions I think we must answer frontally. Otherwise, we will have more difficulty with foreign exchange and a whole lot of things could happen. I think we can avert that. We can avert that by tackling the fundamental economic management misbehavior that has brought us here. We can. And
the misbehavior is spending more than you earn. But that you cannot handle. Your wage bill is huge. You can't sack workers.
Whatever it is, you would have to fix the problem because it is not an option to perpetually spend money you do not have, thinking that borrowing will do it for you. And the recent events are showing that that path is unsustainable.
There are people who hold a view that borrowing is not necessarily wrong. In fact, it's a new tune of your government members who say that, listen, borrowing is not really wrong. It is what you use the borrowing for. It's always been that conversation. They will say we didn't borrow to chop with our mouth. We borrowed so that we use it for we use it for roads, we use it for infrastructure and all of that. And that even China borrows, even America borrows. So borrowing, they say technically is not wrong. You disagree, or you think our type of borrowing is wrong?
I've heard this kind of statements before, and it's not just by people in this administration,
both
but
sides.
People, anytime people are in government and we question borrowing, that is the response you get. But the thing is, borrowing is good. If you borrow, you invest it so that it leads to greater revenue for you going forward, so that you can then rely less on borrowing. If you do that, then borrowing is good.
So there should be an end in sight.
If you borrow as a culture,
cyclical,
and every year that is what you do, then somebody must finance that borrowing. That would be lenders and your donors. For how long? For how long? But so my answer to you is, borrowing is bad if it becomes a way of life. And that is what some of us are beginning to draw attention to.
And that's what it seems like we are now. It's a way of borrowing has become a way of our life.
Oh, it has. And not just under this administration. Borrowing has become the way we have managed our economy. And so even now, if you told people that we need to have a balanced budget, they think it's ridiculous.
A deficit is always better,
that you must constantly incur deficits. And they are not telling us how you finance that deficit. If you have need to always overspend your means and to borrow, and your interest payments go so much up, and you will see that the money that you should commit into the provision of social services and all those, you are now using it to pay interest. Look, if anybody wants to really have a sound conclusion on this, we should relate it to our individual lives. Which household would say that borrowing is not a bad thing? So you borrow. Today you borrow from this friend. Tomorrow you borrow more so that you can pay off this friend and spend the rest because the house is living beyond its means. And you think that can go on. At some point you go to the bank and you say, oh, I need money for business. You use it to pay part of your debt and to finance the current year's overspending. Where would that family be? Why is it that we don't do this in our households, in our individual lives? It is when it comes to the collective good, where people come and leave. They come and leave. Then we are now happy to use all these theories to have this kind of fiscal misbehavior. And then we want to justify it. Look, there is no justification for this. And the events in Ghana today, the pressures of our city, what people are going through, the debt restructuring, and all the things we are seeing, they are wake-up calls to us that the path we have been working is unsustainable. This is the first time we are going for an IMF program, and the IMF is telling us that unless your creditors forgive you some of your debt, we are not giving you money. And look, a proud country like Ghana, we've been at IMF 17 times. If you add Structural Adjustment Program and HIPIC, 19 times. Why? And we think that we don't want to engage with that. If you permit me, let me just quickly move into why this time. Because whenever I have this discussion, especially my party members, my beloved party members, what they say is that, but why now? Why couldn't we have had this discussion before? I am saying that we are going into an election. We want to do what nobody has done in this Fourth Republic before. We want to go beyond the 8 that the electorate have always given ruling parties. We need to, especially now that our economy has also been affected by external factors, Ukraine, COVID, and all those things. What we can do to make it more certain that we are indeed winning this election is to ask ourselves, what are the things that bother Ghanaians, the businesses who are worried about the debt restructuring they suffered, who are worried about the deteriorating city. What message can we send them so that they can see that even though it is still an MPP government, the future will be different. This is an important point for me. Let me just close it in a minute. This is the time to communicate that clearly as a political party and get people to want to continue with us because we are going to do something different. There's no better time. This is the time.
You say that they ask you why now, and you answer that, of course, what we are trying to do is a big one, and so we have to work on it. The cynic in me would say the why now is actually because Kwaku Kwarteng was dropped in 2021 as a member of the Akufo-Addo government, and that when you were sitting around the table 2017, 2021, you never saw these things that you're seeing now. You're seeing them because you have been disappointed. So out of anger, if Ebeko go the Enko corner, so you've decided just throw everything away. That is the cynic in me thinking that that's why you're speaking the way you're speaking. And that if you were still in government, you wouldn't speak the way you are.
Maybe it was the reason I didn't get into government in the first place. You know, that cynic in you, which I also hear around, is a product of how debased our governance and politics has become. It is almost to say anything we do or say must be born out of the desire to get personal gain, or that you are personally hurt, that it is impossible for people to speak nationalistically, and that there always has to be some personal. That in itself is bad of the primitive political culture I'm trying to criticize. We must begin to listen to what people are saying and to say, will this help the country or not?
Are you not hurt?
Look, why should I be hurt? I've said this point before, let me repeat it. This administration and the MPP, they have been kind to me. I entered Parliament in 2012. I was put in the prestigious Finance Committee as a member, first timer. I was there for 4 years. As soon as we won power in 2017, the government said, go and be the Deputy Minister for Finance. Look, in 2021, it wasn't that I was just removed from government as ordinarily people will be removed from government. The leadership of my party and government actually called me and said, Parliament has been depleted of all its finance people. Professor Jambafo was gone, Honorable Dr. Akoto was not in Parliament.
A free Akoto as well, I think.
Well,
he was
a minister.
Yeah, but he had also left Parliament.
But I think the point I'm making, if you really look at those of us in Parliament then, look, it wasn't just, almost everybody said, the way Parliament is right now, with these tight numbers, you need to go and support Parliament. It made sense to me. And then I came to Parliament. After 3 years, it was considered that at least some people were in a position to do it because others have learned, and so come back to the executive. I say thank you. If you will not be grateful to such a government, then you must be a very ungrateful person. So I am grateful to the President for the opportunities he has given me. I'm sorry that I had to turn down that because, as I said, there was some government work to also be done in Parliament, which we are continuing to do. But I'm grateful, and let anybody not suggest that somehow I have a problem with the government. This government, even though I think we should begin to chart a new path as a people and as a government, I think this government has done better than the previous. I'm clear in my mind. I'm an MPP man.
Is this you, the MPP, speaking, or you, the nationalist guy, speaking?
It is me, the commentator. I'm just looking at, well, if you are an NDC man, you're at liberty to say the NDC did better. I won't quarrel with you. But what I'm saying is that I think this government has performed better than the previous, but I also think that sometimes your better is not enough to change the destiny of this country.
The expectation is higher.
The expectation is higher, and therefore we are the party to step up and be counted. We should step forward and say, yes, we may have done better than our predecessors, but we're looking at where the country is going, and we think we are in the best position to occupy that space and to deliver for the country what it really requires. And that's why I'm calling on the NPP that we own this kind of message. I wish that the things I'm saying now were not coming from me, that the party would take it up and say, this is what we want to do. And let's see whether Ghanaians would say, you guys, it's a good message, or Ghanaians would say, we won't mind it. From the feedback, and I end on this now, from the feedback I am getting, many Ghanaians are looking for something different because they have seen the way we have governed this country. They think all politicians are the same. And we must demonstrate clearly that NPP is a different party and that given the chance, we can't change things. That is why I'm calling on my party to do this.
I'll come and ask you what your party's response has been to this. But one quick question before we take a break. This your rejection of the injury time appointment. Could it be because you've been a captain before and when a ship is about to sink, you see it and you don't want to be part of a sinking ship?
No, not at all.
So you decided to jump boats?
Not at all. And Omar, let's not focus too much on this dropping of appointment. Look, Ghana is much bigger. The discussions we are having now about the future of our children is so big that one appointment that was turned down should not be such a big
Because it's not usual in this country that people reject appointments.
It's okay, but let's focus on the bigger thing. But look, to answer your question directly, look, it is the way I am. It is when something is going wrong that I want to be in there to help fix it. By my nature, I don't feel comfortable seeing things go wrong, and I stand not doing nothing. And people who know me know that I have very high standards, and I just don't like doing that. So if really I believed that things were going that bad, then maybe it would have been the reason to pick it up. As I said, I picked it up. I declined because I think there is work here to be done too, and therefore I pleaded. I didn't even reject it the way people say. Your superiors want you to perform an assignment where within the same party, the same government, you explain to them that I think it would be better if I did this. Your superior says, we hear you, and then we proceed like that.
Very well. This is Face to Face. My name is Umaru Sanda Amado. I recall a phrase that was used in the Mills government. It was called pissing in. There were people in his government who were taking issue with the way things were going, and they became enemies of the party and government. I'm going to ask Kwarteng when we come back. Now that it appears he's also pissing in, how is the reaction from his own friends? Is he not going to be isolated? Is he going to become an island? We saw what happened to PC Apia Ofori when he said he was going to be a maverick. Can you really be a maverick in our political space? Please stay with us. You're welcome back. This is Face to Face. My name is Umaru Sandamado. My guest is Honorable Kwaku Kwarteng. He's MP for Obuasi West. He's a member of the NPP. Don't be confused. He's been saying a lot of things that are not necessarily political, which is an unusual thing for a member of a political party to try and speak truth to its own party members, which is what he's been trying to say. And I said that it's akin to the accusations in the Mills era as pissing in. When we took the break, he said he doesn't agree. It's not pissing in. But you are pissing in. You are rocking the boat while on the boat. You're going to incur the wrath of many of your friends.
Actually, I take offense at the expression pissing in.
Okay.
What is pissing in?
Pissing in
pissing in is when you are unhappy and you decide to hurt the party. All right?
Okay.
What I have been looking to do is to see how I help my party shape its message going forward. And please don't use that expression again.
Okay, I will not.
What I'm trying to do
is rocking the boat.
It's really, maybe, but it's really to get my party convinced that it is in our interest to find out what exactly the sentiments of voters are and do for them what they want.
If that will cost you the elections?
No, but if you do what voters want, how does it cost you the elections? In fact, my view, and the reason why this is coming at this time, is that I think MPP should take the lead in acknowledging that, one, the political class our performance has been suboptimal. The political class, all the politics, and from independence to now, the path has not been right.
Make the concession.
Yes. And then we say, this is where we draw the line. And that going forward, things will have to be different. If NPP will step forward and put that discussion on the table, and as I keep saying, look, I'm not saying I am holy and I am the good guy and some other people are not good and I'm convincing them. No. We have all been in this. I've been in this parliament since 2012. It is not possible that the wrong things I speak about, I will not be a part of it. I've been part of it. The wrongs that I myself, I want to see stopped. Some of the wrongs, either by sometimes not commenting or by being silent or sometimes by participating, I am guilty. So I'm not saying that. No. All I'm saying is that in life, when you have your life going a certain way, you must pause and say, the way we have been going, is it really leading us to a good destination? If not, then we must collectively agree to change course and behave differently. That is what I am inviting. In fact, it's not just my party, but I'm inviting my colleague politicians to step forward and to say the political class can do better than we have been doing. And I hope that both parties or all political parties can first come to that agreement. And now the election becomes whose strategy to depart from the wrong path we have been walking, whose strategy is better. Okay. I wish we could get to that.
You have lamented the borrowing or the borrowing spree, the cyclical nature. You were deputy minister for 4 years. You were part of that government and the borrowing we saw. In fact, the accusation is that this government has borrowed more than any government in our history. When you moved from deputy finance ministry, you did not go out completely. You went to chair a committee in parliament that approves every proposal that is brought before it for a borrowing to be done. So you single-handedly should take the blame and the responsibility for our borrowing because you were once at finance ministry. I don't know how much of an ear you got over there because you were a deputy. Some people think that deputies are mere deputies. I don't know how you were treated, but you were chair of a finance committee. It was your committee that okayed all the borrowing. So you should take the blame and the responsibility.
I'm happy to take the blame.
You will take it?
I'm happy to take the blame.
And apologize.
Look, politicians, we should do more than apology. As for apologize, you can just apologize and it passes. That is not difficult to do. What I think we can do to demonstrate that we are sorry for the way we have, and not the NPP government, the political class.
No, you were the way, so you have to take the NPP one and leave the other people to take their responsibility on their own.
Well, I take it that you were just trying to play the devil's advocate, but you cannot make the deputy minister responsible for borrowing by the whole country. Yeah. All right. So I guess take it that you're provoking conversation. But I hear you. What I'm saying is that
as chairman of the committee,
it is the chairman of the committee. You don't even have a vote. You only have a casting vote. You see, this is it. We've been in this together. All right. We've been passing the loans. We've been doing all that. In the Ministry of Finance, I've been in the discussions. Never mind what my own contributions in those discussions were. That's immaterial. Yeah. The long and short of it is that I have been a part of this system. When I say the system, the political system. I've been in parliament, both as opposition and as an MP on government side. I am saying that collectively, the direction we've been heading is wrong. Okay. And we should change course. So if it's apology, if it is what, I am very happy to give it, except that it is not enough. The real demonstration that we recognize that the political leadership we have provided for this country as the political class has been suboptimal. The way to demonstrate that is to, after making that admission, to also deploy a set of interventions that reflects leadership by example, and that would clearly explain how we intend to depart from the past, so that we know and we can confidently say that Ghana, never again are we going for an IMF program until there's radical change. And you see, all those who are uncomfortable by statements like this, especially from my party, if you ask them whether indeed we will not go for an IMF program again, or if in the future we run into difficulty, there will be people to even give haircut to in the first place, and whether we are able to have an IMF program. They are not thinking about those things. They are purely thinking about politics and how our party can look good and hope that maybe that would help us break the... It is, I think people are not engaging with reality, and some do not have the technical understanding of where exactly this country is going. And there's a temptation that some of us may well say, well, I have spoken my mind. If this is what people want, let's all die together. Look, let people hear me. And it's for all the politicians on both sides of the divide. Where Ghana is walking, we are heading for danger. We are heading for danger. We are not careful. We may get to a point, and that path, and I'm quick to add, because I don't want this to look like a criticism of my own government. It's a path we have been walking 17 times at IMF program, 2 additional unusual interventions by external, before we can survive as a country. Botswana, an African country, black people like us, they've never had a need to do that. What is it that they have that we don't have? And people can't see that that path is wrong, and that whatever the politics of it would be, that we need to draw the line and say, never again. And if you say you will not go for an IMF program again, as MPP, we were determined to do, when we came to into government, we were very upset about the fact that we have come into government and we had to straight move into an IMF program. And we're determined that we will get out of the IMF program and never again. You know why we were forced to go for an IMF program again? It is because we failed to deviate sufficiently from the wrong path we inherited from the last administration. So
you continue the same old things?
And that is why, at some point, whether you like it or not, you are forced to go for an IMF program. If you don't, look, if you sit down and you say, I don't want somebody to tell me how I run my home. And that's why when we were discussing this issue about LGBT, I said it's all well and good, and I see the passion. Look, if we don't put our act right, a time is going to come when you are so broke, you see the queues at your fueling stations. You see you are struggling to find foreign exchange to import the things you need to keep the power on. And at that point, you are going to have political leadership that is willing to do anything.
From anybody.
From anybody. The only way we can stand our ground as a proud people and say that we want this or we don't want that, it's when we do the right things, we make the right sacrifices. So look, a lot of the things I am hearing, they are very superficial. And you let people think that we have not done well. And I'm weighing that against what misbehavior could possibly lead us. And I'm saying we need to fix this country so that our NPP, the NDC, and all those political parties, they can continue to operate. Because you see, if you misbehave, if we reasonable people don't do the right things, and the system is destabilized, the people who would fill that gap may be worse than politicians.
I have a question for you on one of the statements you made earlier, where you said that you agree that things are not going as you expected, but you have done better than the previous government. How do you justify this when you know how much a liter of fuel costs now, and you know what figure you met it at? You know how much a dollar costs now, and you know the figure at which you met it. You know what the public debt is now, and you know the figure you met it. How can you, being the nationalistic man you are, honestly looking at me, say to me that even though you have not done well, you have done better than the previous government? Convince me and my viewers that you have done better despite all these things
What I think your question is trying to do is typical. The media people want MPP and DC. We've done better. Then maybe after this, the NDC people would now have to come and counter that what Honorable Kwarteng said.
No,
I'm coming. Well, you guys should accept a bit of accountability. That's what.
I thought you were doing anti-party things. I didn't know you're also doing anti-media, but continue. I'm listening to you.
You know, when that happens, then everybody gets defensive. If it becomes versus who is better, who is not. Look, that statement,
You introduced
I'm coming.
this. You introduced this. You said you have done better. If you hadn't said that, I was not going to ask you this
I said it in passing. But
no, it wasn't in passing.
Whatever it is.
Yes.
Whatever it is. The need for us to get political consensus across the political parties does not even have room, all right, for this, I have done better or I have not. When I said that to make the point, and I'm also communicating with my party people, all right? I said that to make the point that I am not saying our party is bad and that our party has indeed done better. However, I know that as a country we are heading in the wrong direction. I think it is not fair on your viewers, on me, to go and pick that small part about we have done better and try to make it a big part of the discussion. Look, I even think that, I'm coming, yes. Omar. Yes. You know, let's realize that if I really mean well for this country, on many of the issues, there will have to be a certain bipartisan consensus. And therefore, I'm very careful that in these discussions, you do not create the opportunity for your political opponents to oppose what you're saying, so that, as for politics, you are never sure that you always win power. I hope and I'm confident that we can win the next election, but at some point, people will not keep one party in power forever. Okay. It's important that some of the critical things we are discussing, there has to be bipartisan consensus that, given the failures of the political class as a whole, drawing the line, this is how we want to proceed. Okay. Now, if we're going to proceed along that path, we have to be very careful how we counter-accuse each other. Okay. And which is why I want us to leave it here and proceed.
Honorable Kwaku, yes. You see, if you're looking for national consensus, you have to also be truthful and factual. You are an Asante. There's a proverb that says there's a bird that goes to muddy the water upstream and comes downstream and says, oh, who caused this? You need to first concede that you have failed as a government, which is what you are not doing. And if you do not do that, the conversation around sitting behind the table and having a consensus will not work. You have to first admit that, dear Ghanaians, when we came, this was how much a dollar cost. We have brought it to this far. And you were part of the people who communicated to us and said you're going to do better. You have not done better. You should say to us that when you were coming, you said you're going to reduce the cost of fuel. You have failed at that. Make that concession. Apologize to us and say, we didn't do well. But for you to say to me that you have done better than the previous government and ask you to do a comparative analysis and you say, I'm inviting you into a field that you do not want to go. I know. I respectfully disagree and reject your accusation.
I put you on the defensive. Okay, let me say it this way. See, statistics in themselves, even the way you say it, okay, would not be sufficient to pass judgment on a particular government compared with another government. This is the reason. I've told you that when you borrow to pay previous debts and the debt is accumulating, the statistics at any point in time you pick is reflecting how the path you have walked historically. The economy of a country is not a 7 years matter, 8 years matter. I have no doubt in my mind that we, as the ruling party, we must take our fair share of the blame. When I say the political class has failed, I mean including us.
Yeah, but when you say political class,
no, I'm coming.
It's almost like a cop-out. You are trying to generalize. Admit, say, you have done it specifically.
But you see, the danger, unless you let the discussion reflect reality, if you give the impression that everything was fine until this administration came, and then things have deteriorated, then all you have to do is to go and manage the economy before the way we managed it before this administration came. I am telling you that the way historically we have managed it is wrong. That is factual. I know it's sensational. I say that, oh, maybe the other governments did well, but it is this particular administration that has failed, and that is good headlines, all right? What I'm telling you is that, and it's from the bottom of my heart, I'm not being dishonest, when I say it's a collective failure, it is not just for the government that came before us, but also for us over the period that we've been in government. What I don't want to do is to give the impression that everything was well until this administration came. Why? At the time this administration came, we have been to IMF 16 times. SAP, Structural Adjustment Program, and HIPIC 18 times. This government has been to IMF once. You want me to promote a discussion that says, is the one that we added, that is bad. But somehow, if you don't do that, then you are not being honest. I think the reality, look, the viewers understand what I'm saying. I think my party should take its fair share of the blame, but the focus of the discussion is how historically we have managed our affairs and how we reset the management of our country and how we manage this economy. It has nothing to do with me trying to slight other governments. I don't want to do that. Look, I have no appetite to compare governments. I think this election, what voters should be looking out for is not compare, and what we should be looking out for is which political party has the program that would help this country change course.
So futuristic, more
yes,
nationalistic.
and I think if we do that, the party that commits and is sincere to admit the failures and is willing to deploy the things that will bring about change is that party that will win the election.
You have described our economy as a Ponzi scheme. You said that's how it's being run. How can we change that? So the borrowing must stop, of course.
Yes.
But if the borrowing stops, what fixes that deficit in that borrowing? How do you deal with that?
Okay, it's not just the borrowing that must stop.
Because production has failed. We've said we're going to do production, we failed. Now that's the best alternative. Taxation is the easier way. We've been going that way all the time. But then taxation, how much can you really tax? So what would be the alternative to get us out of this Ponzi scheme?
The alternative is to live within your means. To live within your means. Look, we have 275 members of parliament. We should sit there and do the analysis. Can we do with 200?
Reduce MPs.
Why not? If you don't have the money, you don't have the money to keep. If it's a number of MPs, the number of ministers, if it is you are constructing asphalt roads everywhere, because constructing roads is a good thing, but you don't have the money to do it. And you say that it's a good thing, so I'll do it anyway. And you go and borrow until lenders tell you we will not lend to you. So there has to be a clear understanding that spending money you do not have, it's not good behavior. First point. If we do that and we begin to rein in expenditure, then you will begin to reduce your need to borrow. As we are able to stabilize, when you do that, your city will stabilize. Your city, the city's depreciation turns out to hurt business. It turns out to increase the cost of living. Protecting your currency is critical. So when you live within your means, there are times when you may have to borrow, overspend, but when you are doing that, you know that you're doing it for very strategic reasons, and that investment would bring you revenue so that you're not going to need this forever. And there must be a program and a period over which you want to do that. This open-ended desire that we will always borrow to finance the gap, I say, is economic management misbehavior. But final point. So why do I call it a Ponzi scheme? When constantly you're overspending. So every year you must take some people's money, use some to pay off
old
people's debt, use some to finance the current year's misbehavior. Then you do that. That is what we have been doing since independence. Go and look at the statistics.
And that's
in fact, I brought, that's a Ponzi scheme. You don't run a country like that. Look, I have some data here. In 2000, we overspent our revenue by some 49%. In 2001, by 30.4%. In 2002, 24. Then we went to 2003, 15. You go on, and every year we are overspending our means by an average of 40.1%.
And we applaud ourselves for that.
And we want to applaud ourselves for that. And when you want to have this frank discussion and get our beloved country to sit up and begin to do things right, then we mix the discussion up in he's bitter, and we're going for election. We must fix this country.
That's your number, Kwaku Kwarteng, saying we must fix this country. This is not the Fix the Country group, but this is a member of parliament, a member of the sitting government who is really worried, and he says the future doesn't look good if we continue the way we are. When we come back, I'm going to ask him, hand on heart, does he think his party deserves to break the 8? Stay with us. You're welcome back. This is Face to Face. My guest is Kwaku Kwarteng. My question to you, and I want a yes or no answer. You think, hand on heart, that the NPP deserves to break the 8?
Yes.
Why?
Because I don't see the alternative being better. You know, I've already indicated that it's a behavior we have been showing historically. I know the NPP more than I know other political parties. I think NPP has what it takes. We just need to have the right internal conversations in crafting our messages, in designing how we want to proceed from here. And we have what it takes to break the. And I want this party to break the. Look, the reason some of us are also speaking the way we're doing is that we are confident that if we begin to accept the failures of the political class, of which we are a part, to draw the line and to clearly indicate the things we are going to do different, and to begin to lead by example, trust me, we will break the 8 more easily. And I think we deserve to break that 8.
What is your role, or will be your role, in the Bawumia campaign?
Already, I'm part of the manifesto committee. All right, I'm part of the manifesto committee. And
are you putting your ideas in the manifesto? Are they accepting
yes,
it?
Well, we're having our internal discussions, and spare me the headache of having to discuss that here.
Okay.
But in addition to being part of the manifesto committee, I'm also a parliamentary candidate, and I'll be selling our presidential candidate, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, with his running mate, Dr. Opoku Prempeh. I will be selling them in my constituency, but also selling myself and the party in the constituency. Plus the work I'll be doing at the national level in respect of our campaign messages and their communication. These are the roles I'll be playing in the NPP selection.
Very well. So that's what you're going to be busying yourself with. This decision of yours to leave government now, in the future, is it the case that as long as you remain an MP, you do not wish to be a member of the executive? So for instance, if you succeed in breaking the 8, 2025, Bawumia is forming his government and you are still an MP, he invites you to come and be a minister. Is it the case that you are done, you're not going to take executive position again, or is the needs now that demanded that you reject?
When we reach that river, we'll cross it.
No, tell us now so that we know.
Look, we are going to fight for political power. We are having conversations that will improve our chances of winning the election. And you want me to start talking about how we are going to share? No, I will not answer that question. What I would say is this. Whenever you are invited to come and do any work, you just look at what you are doing now, you look at that work and you make a decision. It may well be that, and I think we're going to win the election. After the election, it's suggested to you to come and play a certain role. You believe that that role in the circumstances will be better played by you instead of you being in parliament.
You can do that.
Then you have to do it. Okay. So that's why I say when we get to that river, we'll cross it.
Let's talk about pushbacks that you're facing because of this, your position. A new committee has been created by Parliament, and you've been asked to go and chair that. You've been booted from Finance Committee, which you have chaired for all these years. And outsiders would, those who speak to us on the corridors of power say, Kwaku Kwarteng is chairing the Finance Committee. Whatever we bring there, he say we won't let it go through. So we've shown him the lesson. We've sent him to Siberia to go and chair some economic committee. Are you, okay, What do you make of this, your reshuffle that has sent you to a different committee from finance?
First, the reshuffle came about because there were new standing orders for Parliament.
Yeah, that's on the face of it.
Well, that's what, that without it, look, I was the finance committee chair for 3 years and a half.
Controlling the
budget.
budget.
In fact, more than even 3 years and a half.
Yeah.
I've already indicated that I was prevailed upon to come and take that position because my superiors considered I was the best person to do it at the time. Whatever you call and you are scrutinizing things and you are not allowing things to go through would have happened for over 3 years. Of course, I bring my personal values and my understanding of how governance should work to my work wherever I am. And so, yes, where there were referrals that I thought had to be managed in a certain way, had to be tidied up in a certain way, I would put those ones forward. But largely, government got along with a lot of the discussions we had. It wasn't just me, majority leader, the members of the committee. So in the end, I think we worked quite well. I supported government to the best of my ability. If there are new standing orders and therefore we have to be reorganized, the Mother Finance Committee has actually been split into 3. The first one is the Economy and Development Committee, then you have the Finance Committee, the new Finance Committee, and then you have the Budget Committee. Because of the tightness of Parliament, in fact, the chairmanship for the Economic Committee and the Budget Committee are all with the opposition. So it's NDC chairing both. Yeah. I think originally my leadership wanted me to chair the Economic Committee, a very important committee if you look at the standing orders. I heard suggestions in the media that, oh, it's some media people. You always want to present things in a way that
will look... You've been demoted. We've just told you you've been demoted. Is that not what it is? It was a demotion, wasn't it?
Whatever it was, well, if leadership wants to move people around, they move me to economy. Why would you people want to let it? But
are you happy with the new position?
I'm very happy. Look, I don't want to be a minister. It's a committee chair. So the point I'm making is that I think we should allow leadership to be. I don't think it was motivated by any Siberia idea, or it was just the arrangement that they considered would be proper for this. If that leadership had not gone to the NDC, I am sure I would have been chairing that committee. I'm grateful for the fact that, I mean, if you are a problem at the finance committee,
taking to economy makes it worse.
They might have then throw you somewhere.
Yeah.
But for them, they will send him to chair. And you see the flowery comments the majority leader made about me.
Someone would say now it's all to placate you.
Even if he didn't mean it, the fact that he found it necessary to present it in a way that is not offensive shows that he has no ill will against me.
Very well.
I'm happy with my leadership, and I invite all of you, the media, to help with this new conversation because our country deserves better.
Honorable Kwarteng, thank you so much. Let me tell you who you should go and drag onto this conversation. Samuel Kwadwo Blakwa. He's doing something similar to what you are doing on the other side. Please invite him. The two of you can caucus together. But thank you so much for joining us on Face to Face.
Thank you too.
That's the Honorable Kwaku Kwarteng, has served as a Deputy Minister of Finance, Member of Parliament now for Obuasi West, and he says our politics must take a new approach. My name is Umaru Sandamadu. Thank you for watching. We'll be back again next week.